Hi, Michael William Denny of thundershamanism.com, thunderwizard.com, and asktheshaman.com. And today we're going to be talking about the next chapter in the book, Odin Says Jesus Was a Coward. And if you're interested in the book, you can click on the link below. If you want to see my other books and DVDs, you can click on either Thunder Shamanism or Thunder Wizard, and you'll see all of my books and DVDs. If you want to talk to me directly, if you want personal counseling, if you want rune reading, if you want instruction in shamanism, whatever it is, you can click on asktheshaman.com, register, and give me a call. My phone will ring, and you can ask me anything you want. So the next chapter that I want to talk about is entitled "A Lost Warrior Culture." If you haven't, go back and listen to the first installment of this, Odin Says Jesus Was a Coward, and I go into the introduction. I won't take up that time here, but it's important that we understand, the bottom line is, it's important that we understand the difference between any spiritual practice that has an unbroken connection into prehistory, as opposed to practices that have been developed in the last, say, 2,500 years. The difference between the two is that the practices that we would call shamanic or indigenous, which every culture in the world at one time shared, and modern religions, is that modern religions are intellectual in nature. It's based on intellectual belief, and what you do is you choose to adopt a certain belief system, and then from that point on you filter everything through that belief system. And the idea is that the shamanic paths, the indigenous paths that are unbroken, have a completely different understanding of our relationship to ourselves in the universe. So anyway, so in A Lost Warrior Culture, I start talking about the Hopi myth, which is, I find to be very interesting, and I found it to be true. And in this sense, I've practiced multiple shamanic traditions from multiple parts of the world. I practiced internal martial arts from the Taoist tradition in China. I've practiced extensively with African shamans, with African drumming. I've done East Indian yogic practices. And anyway, bottom line is this, is that I've come to find out that the Hopi myth of the four races and the four elements, I have found to be true. So the way the Hopi myth goes like this. It's that at the beginning of the expansion of human beings across the planet, the Great Spirit told those first humans that he was going to give them power over the four elements, and they were going to go off in different directions to master those four elements. And the people who became the Africans were to master water. The people who were to become the East Asians were to master ether. The people who were to master earth are the peoples that we would call the natives of the Americas. And the people who were to master fire were to be the Europeans. And so each of them are going to have a different character about it. And as strange as it sounds, you'll see this. East Asians, when I've trained with them, masters in that are very aloof. And they're kind of, the way to respect them is totally different. Africans are like water. They're very joyful. They're the most accepting people I've ever met in my life. Very much like water, they just surround you and pervade you. In fact, our whole music, modern music, is completely based on African music. That's the power of water. It just gets everywhere. Native Americans, their belief systems, at least from what I see, there's a very grounding effect. There's the power of earth. Europeans are very fiery. And fire has its own specific feeling to it. And so I had trained in these other traditions, and I can vouch that they were just like those elements. And so when I started getting involved in the Norse myths and I started meditating and worshiping the northern gods, I had a very different experience than I've ever had before. And certainly they were very fiery, very fiery. And I learned what fire was from a spiritual perspective. And traditionally speaking, fire is from the heart. And when the heart chakra is, when you're doing well with the heart chakra, you have love, you have acceptance, you have this warmth about you. When you're operating deficiently from the heart, you're judgmental, you're angry, you're vindictive. So it's interesting because who's the most racist race on the earth, white people. That's because the people who are racist are operating from their fire nature, but they're operating from a negative standpoint. They're judgmental, they're unaccepting, they're easily angered. This is fire in its negative form. Fire in its true form is very warm, it's very jovial. It's like Santa Claus is the perfect example of the northern fire, heart-centered scenario. And as it so happens, our idea of Santa Claus is actually it comes from the original idea of Odin. That's a whole other subject. Anyway, so my experience is that when I was meditating with these gods and communicating with them, there was so much love and acceptance, but it was totally different. It was interacting on a fire level. And I remember I was saying something to somebody, and I was operating from my own fear and insecurity, and I said something that was judgmental about Thor. And I immediately felt a response inside of me. And what I felt was, how dare you insult me? Never, ever betray your family. So at first I felt really guilty about it because, you know, that's what we've been taught. And I didn't have this experience of what it's like to be in a truly evolved fire personality. And as soon as that fire came out, then the love and the support came back, and I realized that I'd never lost that. And then there was something that he said. He called me family. No other tradition I've been in had called me that before. And that has nothing to do with race. That's the way that those traditions are. He called me family. And it was a heart-centered thing. And so I learned that the destiny of the northern people was to be a people of family, not just for themselves, but for the whole world. To feel like you are connected to everybody, that you're part of a family of the whole world. So that was extremely interesting to me, and that is the basis of the warrior culture of the pre-Christian Norse people. It was based on fire. It was based on love. It was based on defending your family. And by the way, family is anybody who was accepted, who had earned their place. Doesn't matter where you came from, doesn't matter if you were a stranger born somewhere else. If you came into somebody else's village or somebody else's community, and through your own sacrifice you proved yourself worthy, you were accepted as family. Didn't matter who you were. And so this is how I was feeling when I started working with them. And it completely changed. Just once again, it filled out my experience of what indigenous practices are all over the world. So anyway, I could go on and on and on and on, but I wanted to talk about the chapter called The Warrior Culture in the book. If you want to, you can go ahead and click on the link below, and you can buy the book. Odin Says Jesus Was a Coward, the monotheist subversion of traditional religious thought. You can click on any of the other links, thundershamanism.com, thunderwizard.com. You can see all my books and DVDs. If you want to talk to me directly, if you want personal counseling, if you want personal instruction, or if you want a rune reading from me, go to asktheshaman.com, follow the instructions there, and I'd be happy to help you.